Part 2 here, we're going to move on with quadrant 1 and look at 60 degrees. Okay, you don't want to use anything you did for the 30 degrees for this because it's a brand new angle. So 60 degrees is still quadrant 1, so we draw a little picture. We make a bigger picture with our special triangles. Now, this angle down here is now the 60. This one up here is the 30. When we did 30, those were backwards. Across from 30 is always 1. Hypotenuse is 2. This is square root of 3. Okay, that's all you need to do everything on 60 degrees. So sine of 60 degrees now. Opposite over hypotenuse. Square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of 60. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent of 60. TOA. Opposite over adjacent. Square root of 3 over 1 is just square root of 3. Now, when we come over to cosecant, we need to flip the sign. This needs to be rationalized. Okay, secant of 60, flip the cosine. Cotangent of 60, we have to flip this now. So it's going to become 1 over square root of 3, and then always make sure you rationalize. Okay, take a look at what you see for 60 degrees. So cosine is square root of 3 over 2. I'm sorry, sine is square root of 3. Sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. Go back to what we had for 30 degrees. Sine's 1/2, cosine square root of 3 over 2. So you're going to see the same values in numbers over and over and over, just with different values. All of these, 1/2, square root of 3 over 2, 2, square root of 3 over 3, square root of 3, 2 square root of 3 over 3 are the exact same 6 values here. They just kind of switch around. So there's quadrant 1. Everything was positive. We didn't have to worry about our signs. Okay, quadrant 2, we're going to go a little bit quicker. And we're going to talk about how we know whether things are positive or negative. But it's the exact same idea as quadrant 1. So the next stop would be 90 degrees. But that's right on the axis, and we've looked at those before. So there's no real triangle there. Okay, you just use 1s and 0s. So now the next stop is going to be 120. So your big reference angle is 100. I'm sorry, the terminal angle here is 120. But we don't really care about that anymore. We don't have a triangle for 120. We want to use this little angle down here called our reference angle. So they always come down or up to the x-axis. So this is the triangle that you care about, and it has 60 degrees back there. So you pull this triangle off, and you make sure it keeps kind of the same directions here. So this is the 60 degrees we care about, because it's 60 down to 180 here. Okay. So when we say sine of 120, you should also know that's the same thing as the sine of 2 pi over 3, but we're going to keep it with degrees right now while you guys are still adjusting to radians as well. So this is 60, this is 30. Across from 30 is 1, hypotenuse is always 2, and this is square root of 3. So again, we said the unit circle has a radius of 1, but if you make this a radius of 1, these numbers become fractions, and I think it's harder to work with, so I do it like this. Okay, we're just changing the ratio. We're not making anything different. So the only problem with quadrant 2 now is, if I ask you to plot a point in quadrant 2, you would be going back on the x-axis. When you go backwards, that means it's a negative. So only the x-coordinate there is negative because you're going up a positive y. So now, it's all the same types of things you've seen before. Sine of 120. So we use this 60. So sine square root of 3 over 2. Sines are positive in quadrant 2 because it only uses a y and hypotenuse. Cosine of 120. Take the adjacent. This is now a negative 1 over 2. Okay, tangent. Opposite over adjacent. So this is square root of 3 over a negative 1. So just throw the negative in front of it. Okay, cosecant of 120. So we're going to flip this. So 2 square roots of 3, it needs to be rationalized. Secant of 120, we flip the cosine, make sure it stays negative. Cotangent of 120, we have to flip this, make sure it stays negative. Rationalize negative square root of 3 over 3. Now I want you to notice 120 is a multiple of 60. Okay? These values here are the exact same thing we did up here for 60 degrees. Okay, the sine was square root of 3 over 2. The sine of 120 is the square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. Cosine of 120 is negative 1/2. All these numbers are the same. You're just going to change signs. Okay, let's do 45 degrees and also 60. So next stop is 135 degrees because that gives us a reference angle of 45 to get to 180. So we're going to do everything at 135 degrees, but the triangle we draw is in quadrant 2 as a 45, 45, 90. Now we said it's 1, 1, square root of 2. But if it's in quadrant 2, you have to go backwards on the x-coordinate, so this becomes negative 1. So now sine of 135, opposite over hypotenuse, we rationalize the exact same value that happened at 45 degrees. Cosine 135, so adjacent over hypotenuse, rationalize, it's the exact same number that happened at pi over 4, it's just now negative. Sine and cosine are still the same number, just a different sign. Okay, tangent of 135 then is a TOA, so an opposite over adjacent. Tangent's now negative 1. Okay, flip all of them. Sine of, or cosecant of 135 then, flip the original. Cosecant of 135 and cotangent. So tangents and cotangents are always the same value at multiples of 45. All right, one more with our last 60 degree or 30 degree reference angle at 150. So last one in quadrant 2 is 150 degrees. So we're 30 degrees away from 180. 30 degrees mean 1/6 of the way to pi. We have 5 pi over 6 of those. So you can convert this, but start getting in your head that these are the same things. Okay, you're almost to pi. You're less than 1. 6 pi over 6 is right here. So we're 30 degrees less than that. So reference angle's 30. The big angle's 150. So across from a 30 is a 1, 2, square root of 3. It's a negative x coordinate. So the square root of 3 needs to be negative. Everything else is positive. I'm going to pause it here and fill in all these values. If you guys want to do the same in your notes and see if you agree with me, I'd suggest that. So for 5 pi over 6, sine of it is 1/2, cosine here. Tangent, you'll see everything is negative except sine and cosecant, because sine and cosecant are the only ones that use opposite and hypotenuse. Everything else uses this adjacent somehow. So this, for 150 degrees, is the exact same things we should have at our first one of 30. 1/2 square root of 3 over 2, square root of 3 over 3. 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2, negative square root of 3 over 3. Okay, so there's the first 2 quadrants. I'll have you guys build quadrants 3 and 4 in class and see if we can start putting this all together. Okay, keep in mind degrees and radians are interchangeable. Start getting an idea of where radians fall. Think about what our first one in quadrant 3 is going to be and bring questions to class.